economist. Geeta Gopinath wrote a piece this week in which she said unequivocally we're in a global liquidity trap and talked about the limits of monetary policy right now. She said fiscal policy will need to be the main game in town. And it's been a busy week. I don't know if you were able to pick up the pink paper and read that piece, but she does say 97% of advanced economies have rates below 1%. And I just wonder if you'd agree with her in principle that we are in a global liquidity trap and what the consequences of that would be. We've talked a lot about fiscal policy here domestically, and she talks about the need for sort of a global cohesive approach to fiscal policy. My second question is, you talk about how you follow the epidemiology. You're looking at the course of this virus. And I wanted to ask you about how you look at the course of Christine Lagarde laying out what the ECB plans to do. As you lent an ear to what she had to say, the dire warnings that she was making this morning, as she looks at the situation that Europe's in, what can you and your colleagues learn about the second wave or the third wave that you've talked about and we've all feared when it comes to a policy response?
Okay, thanks. So two questions. First, I take the sense of your first question to be, is monetary policy out of power or out of ammo? And the answer to that would be no, I don't think that. I think that we are strongly committed to using these powerful tools that we have to support the economy during this difficult time for as long as needed. And no one should have any doubt about that. And we do not doubt the power of the things that we've already done or the things that we may do in the future. I do think there's more that can be done. And I also think if you look at the stock of assets that we've bought, if you look at the facilities and the way we've been able to keep accommodative financial conditions accommodative, I think we've been able to do a lot of things that are providing very strong support for the economy, and we're gonna keep at that. We've said from the very beginning, though, that this is the particular situation we find ourselves in is one where there is a sudden loss of income on the part of millions and tens of millions of people. It's not so much a typical recession where demand weakens, the Fed cuts interest rates stimulate demand, and the economy recovers. It's a sudden shock where tens of millions of people are out of work, and the fiscal response was frankly, I think, very good and very robust in the United States, and it's certainly one of the main reasons why the recovery has been as good as it's been so far. So I do think fiscal policy is absolutely essential here. You know, stimulating aggregate demand is one thing, but where there's a part of the economy that kind of will be resistant to that, you also need fiscal policy, and of course you need healthcare policy too. I didn't see Madame Lagarde's comments this morning, but I took the sense of that question to be the spread of the disease in Europe, and what do we think about that? Yeah. So as I mentioned in my opening remarks, it's a concern. We have a widespread spike in cases across the country, more in some regions than others. And even if we don't have, and I don't expect that we would, government-imposed restrictions, it does seem likely, though, that people who have maybe begun to engage in activities that they hadn't, flying, staying in a hotel, going to restaurants, going to bars and things like that, that they may pull back in a situation where suddenly the cases are everywhere in your city, your state, your community. So I do think that that's a risk that we have as we go into the fall now and the cases spike. That could weigh on economic activity. One would expect that it would. We thought the same thing, in fairness, about the wave we had this summer in the South and the West, and the economy, seemed to move right through that. This one seems to be larger and more widespread. In any case, it's a risk is what I would characterize it. I would characterize it as a risk, as I did in my comments.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.